Is everybody happy? Cried the sergeant looking up. Our hero bravely answered yes, and then they stood him up. He jumped right out into the blast, his static line unhooked. He ain't gonna jump no more. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more. Now there was blood upon the risers, there were brains upon the chute. Intestines were a-hanging from his paratroop of chute. They picked him up, still in the chute, and poured him from his boots. He ain't gonna jump no more. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more.
Welcome, friends and foes, survivors and killers. Let's sit around the campfire together and talk about Dead by Daylight. Specifically, a killer turning 1 year old right now. My favourite killer in this game, the twins. The twins are a challenging killer in every sense of the word. They're a challenging killer to play because their kit has so much going on and has such little margin for error that you have to maintain both consistently quick chases and perfect decision making at the same time if you want to do well with them. They're a challenging killer to play against because the way Victor chases is so strange and unintuitive that their counterplay can seem obscure at best and non-existent at worst. And they're a challenging killer to change because their incredible technical complexity from a development standpoint means that for every one thing you fix, you likely cause 3 more problems elsewhere. They were released on December the 1st, 2020, meaning that their first birthday is fast approaching at the time of writing this script, and it's genuinely remarkable how much behaviour could completely forget about a killer in such a short period of time. Since their release last year, they've received almost no actual direct attention from behaviour in terms of balance changes or new content associated with them. It's only been a year, you might think. Don't you reckon I'm being a bit demanding asking so much in that time frame? So let's compare what twins have directly received in terms of balance changes and ancillary content compared to the other original killers released on either side of them, Blight before and Trickster after. Twins received 2 store outfits, 1 balance patch, and in that patch 2 add-ons were buffed, both the ultra rares, and 1 base kit numbers nerf was received. In Trickster's case, he got 3 store outfits, and a tome with an additional new outfit, new animation and lore. He also got 4 rounds of balance patches, including a full add-on pass involving the changes to 10 add-ons. Blight received 3 store outfits, one of which was a legendary set, 2 tome recoloured outfits, 1 tome story, 2 lots of base kit balance changes, and 4 add-on changes. 2 buffs to Adrenaline Vial and Summoning Stone, a nerf to Compound 21, and a rework to Soul Chemical. Both the killers on either side of the twins have completely upstaged them, both in terms of balance maintenance from the developers and cosmetic and ancillary releases. But maybe the reason they're not getting much attention is because they don't need it. I remember when twins came out, they were a solid A tier killer because a lot of people didn't really know how to play them. On release, they were easily a top 10 killer, and since they basically haven't received any balance changes since then, they have to still be at least fine, right? Well, in that year, the game has changed substantially around twins in ways that have really challenged that former status as a top 10 killer. New perks, balance changes to existing perks, fixes to bugs that happen to benefit the twins, new bugs that are detrimental to them and have yet to be fixed, and the removal of several techs twins had that increased victim versatility all contributed to the killer's spectacular fall from grace. I'm going to list off all the other changes to the game that have taken place in the year since the twins' release that was either targeted at them or disproportionately affected them significantly more than the average killer. For starters, loss of collision after 30 seconds of Charlotte remaining idle mitigated the power of body blocking survivors with Charlotte. With Pinhead's release came a dead hard bug fix that stopped Victor being able to hit through dead hard's invisibility frames. And the later arrival of dead hard validation meant that hits that would have landed before now kill Victor's momentum but prevent the hit, allowing a survivor to kick him for free as if he'd hit them. In addition, they removed the ability to climb on top of raised areas and chase survivors vertically, which made a lot of low tiles way more playable as Victor. And the ability for Victor to idle in windows to block vaults was also removed. The bug fix that removed both those things also introduced a new slew of height detection bugs that result in Victor randomly dying or pouncing on the spot on numerous different maps and tiles. Bugs which, unlike the text they removed in the first place, have never been fixed. In addition, the borrowed time buff that made the perk trigger regardless of the killer's terror radius was in part done to stop Victor being able to damage freshly unhooked survivors. And the twins benefited far more from old ruin undying than most other killers, since hooking people for pop value was never really something twins were that good at. So the nerf to undying hit twins significantly harder than a lot of other killers who could more realistically transfer to pop goes the weasel. But none of these changes even fucking remotely compare to the savage beating that is Circle of Healing. There's no denying that we're in a boon meta now, or more accurately a Circle of Healing meta, and it's changed how both sides play the game in a bigger way than any perk on either side since Dead Hard. That's a bold claim, I know, but I don't know a perk since Dead Hard that's changed how both sides play as much as Circle. Old Metal, Old Undying, Unbreakable, Corrupt, Pop, Deliverance, Soulguard, none of these even remotely compare to how much the gameplay of both sides warps around even just one person bringing Circle of Healing. Suddenly, doing all the gens in one side of the map, giving the killer a 3 gen and putting the Circle of Healing outside of it becomes a game-winning strategy, because now a low mobility killer who can't run across the map to break the boon, like say Pyramid Head or Huntress, doesn't get to win the video game anymore, because they can just run to the circle as soon as you hit them, and now you either let them heal up for free by breaking chase, or commit to the chase across the map and you lose your 3 gen. 3 genning, a strategy which should lose the survivors the game, can now be very easily converted into a win with a single Circle of Healing. And if you're a high mobility low lethality character like Freddy or Wraith, you won't be able to snowball off of downing injured survivors even if you do keep going to break the boon, because everyone will be healthy. And that's just one perk, of which they can have 4 and which you can never get rid of for good. To beat it, you have to be playing a killer who both has great map control to snuff boons out and enough chase lethality that you don't need to snowball off of the injury states that Circle of Healing will deny you. So unless you're playing one of these two killers, or a killer who doesn't care about healing at all, a properly used Circle of Healing can be genuinely obscene, especially against twins. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you how incredibly obnoxious Circle of Healing is against the twins. Victor can't snuff out the totem, so their mobility doesn't let them interact with it. It affects pickup speed, and stacked with other healing boosts like medkits and We're Gonna Live Forever, so you can't get people down long enough to pick them up, and Victor's only useful against survivors who are already injured, meaning you have to spend even more time chasing with Charlotte to get them injured again. Winning with twins through one active Circle of Healing is a nightmare, but winning through several, it takes a miracle. But don't worry, it's not all indirect nerfs. Here's a list of all the indirect buff twins received in that time span. Soulguard received a 30-second cooldown. And if that doesn't sound bad enough, just wait till you hear about the new boon perk, Exponential, and how that interacts with the twins, because I genuinely don't know how that made it live. Circle of Healing is a perk that's very effective at stopping twins from winning the game, but despite it being a much weaker perk than Circle of Healing, Exponential is an exceptionally effective perk at stopping twins from playing the game altogether. Exponential weaponises the twins' clunkiness in the worst possible way because of the absolutely insane recovery speed boost the perk gives. 100% extra recovery speed means that you can pick yourself up from the ground in 15 seconds. Which sounds absolutely obscene, but against most killers isn't really the be all and end all. If you're getting that speed, it means the killer has downed you inside the boon's area of effect, and the killer can likely find and break the boon fairly easily, and just leave you slugged from there if they really want to. Compare this to Unbreakable, a perk which can be used way more consistently, and can't really be played around by the killer, and you'll see why against most killers, Exponential really isn't a problem. But let me show you its rather potent effect on twins. Now. And then I unbind. And I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm... Stop moving. I land the pounce. I'm switching as fast as I can. Yeah. If a survivor gets hit by Charlotte and runs in a straight line towards the lit boon totem, they end up wasting enough of the killer's time just by holding Shift W that they can pick themselves up before Charlotte can make it over for the pickup. The anti-slugging perk is so good at its job that it prevents twins from being able to pick up survivors at all. You either have to down them with Charlotte or hope they path so badly the victor can down them super close to her. Because if neither of those things happen, you physically cannot pick up a survivor faster than they can pick themselves up. And a single boon can give this benefit to the entire team. If one person has it up and the rest of the team plays around properly, twins do not have a functional power. You can down people as many times as you like, but you can't pick them up unless they run out of boon radius or outer room on the map to run to. And this combos with other perks that happen to do very well against the twins as well. Unbreakable, Soul Guard, Flip Flop and Power Struggle, even Tenacity. And because a single boon applies all the benefits of its constructor's perks, they're incentivized to stack it with, you guessed it, Circle of Healing. I don't think we've ever had a single perk in the history of Dead by Daylight that has countered a killer power so hard before. Certainly we haven't since the days of small game finding trappers traps, or a bunch of Obsession finding stealth killers before Undetectable existed. And both of those only give info for a single person on the team, but a single exponential boon gives that bubble of victor immunity to the entire team in a way that the twins have no means to deal with. Look, it might sound like I want exponential nerfed, but I don't really think it needs it. Again, it's not even a particularly good perk against most of the killer roster. It just takes advantage of a problem with twins that needed to be fixed from day one, a problem that behaviour actively chose to make worse. Their incredible clunkiness. When you hit someone with a successful Victor pounce, you undergo a 5-second post-hit fatigue time before Victor gets to do anything other than move. In this time, a survivor can kick you and send you back to Charlotte. If you switch to Charlotte once this fatigue is over, you have to sit through an additional 3-second animation as she wakes up before you can start moving again. This means, if you down someone with Victor and want to pick up with Charlotte, you have to sit through 8 seconds of combined fatigues, 5 on Victor's end and then 3 on Charlotte's. If the survivor you down is within range of an exponential boon, the survivor has already recovered over halfway by the time you even get to start moving to pick them up. If you can't get to the slug in 7 seconds, they escape for free. That's where the limiting factor to twins is. It's in their fatigues. They have the longest total fatigue time for landing a single attack in Dead by Daylight's entire history, the equivalent of eating a decisive strike stun into a head-on stun just for using your power correctly and are trying to hook the survivor instead of slugging. And you wonder why twins players slug so much, because design limitations placed on their power bite behaviour means they physically cannot hook you in a timely fashion, and the design exponential exploits those limitations. These limitations make them feel like garbage to play, encourage slugging intensive playstyles that make them feel garbage to play against, and don't add anything to the gameplay of the killer for either side. When was the last time you were playing Survivor against the twins and thought to yourself, gee golly, I'm sure glad Charlotte has her 3-second fatigue, I'd have been dead for sure there if she didn't have it. And when twins came out, this combined fatigue was actually a bit shorter. Victor's post-hit fatigue used to be 3 seconds instead of 5, the same as his miss fatigue, giving a total fatigue of 6 seconds instead of 8. But in the only balance change behaviour has ever made to the twins' base kit, they nerfed this to 5 seconds in the all-kill mid-chapter, stating that the goal was to discourage Victor from slugging the whole team, not realising that punishing the twins player for switching from Victor to Charlotte after getting it down would accomplish the opposite effect to what they wanted. Genuinely, seriously, why did they think that the solution to not enough people wanting to switch to Charlotte after getting it down so they could pick up a survivor was to make switching to Charlotte harder? Oh yes, let's make this action more time intensive and difficult so more people will do it. I don't like to use the term weapons grade dipshittery very often, but I think this is one of those times. And it's been like this since fucking February. This was recognised, rightfully, as a mind-breakingly stupid idea by everyone who has a pair of hands and internet connection and saw it on the PTB. But it went live anyway, and twins have had no follow-up changes since. They got nothing in the massive Michaela mid-chapter update that changed like half the killers in the game, and with Legion and Ghostface having been name-dropped for the big changes in Portrait of a Murder mid-chapter, it's unlikely that twins are lined up for anything there either. So we're probably stuck the way we are for a while longer. And it feels even worse when you consider how many tweaks other killers got after their releases to make them more playable. You took time to buff Blight and Nurse's add-ons, and for some reason nerf Ghostfaces, but you couldn't find it in your terribly busy schedule to change a 5 back to a 3. Exponential is the straw that broke the camel's back, but the back was breaking for a long time now, and now you gotta fix it. There's no way you can claim to me or anyone else with an iota of common sense that the interactions that twins have with Exponential and recovery perks in general are healthy. But in my opinion, they are also fixable. Some people have said that Charlotte should move towards Victor while you control him. Others think that Victor should be able to latch onto down survivors to make sure they don't get themselves back up. But the solution is so much easier than that. Cut the fucking fatigues. And I don't mean turn the numbers down a bit, I mean eliminate them completely if you play correctly and choose not to slug. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Revert the hit fatigue change. 5 seconds is fucking stupid. We know this to be true. Take it back to 3, the way it used to be. Step 2. Instead of Victor being able to move during this new post-hit fatigue animation of 3 seconds, let the twins player switch from Victor to Charlotte during that time. This wouldn't cancel Victor's fatigue outright, he'd still be kickable by the survivor obviously, but you just wouldn't be controlling him during that time, you'd be controlling Charlotte. This would be a special kind of switch action, which for argument's sake I'm going to call a hot switch. And step 3. Whenever you hot switch after landing a hit with Victor, Charlotte's 3-second fatigue is completely skipped. Instead, you get to take control of Charlotte instantly, like you do when Victor dies. No waking up animation, you just get going and can move on to pick up the survivor immediately. It's as simple as that. The hot switch solution would completely remove this problem in a way that would make the twins much more dynamic and fun to play without making them any worse to play against. By landing a successful hit and choosing not to slug, not only will the twins player be able to cancel Victor's fatigue, but also Charlotte's. Charlotte will be able to start moving over and picking up the survivor a whole 8 seconds earlier than she normally would, meaning that picking herself up before she gets there is now a whole lot less possible even with the new boon. And 8 seconds of saved time on every single down is huge, it actually adds up really fast. Suppose you're getting your first 4 hooks of the game and hot switch instantly after all 4 downs. You're saving 32 seconds of pointless and irritating animation locks. 32 seconds, multiplied across each of the 3 survivors you're not picking up, is 96 seconds. That's more than a whole gen's worth of time saved after only 4 hooks. I can't even begin to tell you how much more inclined I'd be to trudge across the map and pick survivors up if I had that much extra time to work with. And I'm sure survivors would enjoy it more, more than being left on the ground for ages, because in a game like Dead by Daylight, where the killer needs to be as efficient as possible to save time and win, picking somebody up right now is often a time sink that you can't afford, and with the new boon, becomes quite literally impossible to do. Don't get me wrong, there are other changes I'd make to twins too, like self-destructing Victor if he's idle under someone's hook, or changing their add-ons because they have a ton of really bad ones, but the priority should always be making the killer playable regardless of what the survivors bring. And if self-recovery and healing perks are going to be as pushed in power level as they are, the twins are inexcusably poorly prepared for it. Their clunkiness has gone from being a mild irritation to physically preventing them from being able to use their power to down and hook people in the space of just a few months. Behaviour has forgotten about the twins, and regardless of your personal opinion on the killer, hopefully you can understand that the state they've been left in by the development team is not acceptable. The state of DBD around the twins has changed so much in such a short time, it's high time they were given the polish they've always needed, as new pushed recovery perks and bug fixes that create more bugs threaten to push them further into irrelevancy. In the September 2021 developer update, the devs addressed a question from a viewer about the big mid-chapter updates not addressing Legion, Twins or Executioner, and Patrick, the lead game designer for DBD, answered it like this.
That mid-chapter patch is touching, I think, about half, just shy of half of the killers in the game. That's a lot of changes that are going in. And that's only if you ignore the fact that we rewrote all of the killer add-on text to include specific numerical values, right? Which was not an insubstantial amount of work. So yeah, the thing is that we have a huge number of killers in this game, and we keep adding more. It's beyond any sort of reasonable scope for us to change every killer that everyone plays in every mid-chapter patch. That doesn't mean that we're never going to update them. You know, I see Twins, Legion. I've already talked about Legion a bunch today. Twins, Executioner, you know, people talk about their favorite killer, the one that they really love. It doesn't mean we're not going to give them any love. It doesn't mean we're not paying attention to them. But we have a backlog, and there's only so many hours in the day for us to do that work.
I understand. Making games is hard. I'm usually inclined to defend the people who make this game, or give them the benefit of the doubt, more than many of my contemporaries in the world of DBD content, because I do not envy the position of having to satisfy millions of fans who all want different things. But it's been a year, and all you've actually done to address the twins' severe kit health and balance issues is change a 3 to a 5, and you couldn't even do it right. Given the scale and breadth of changes you've made to other killers and game elements that really didn't need it, it feels like a middle finger to a killer that since their first day on the PTB was never truly finished. If you want to show us that you haven't just made a killer and immediately left them for dead because it didn't sell as well as K-pop Joker, The Dentist, Nightmare and Captain NFTs, then fucking sort them out. Fix their fatigues, for God's sakes. They're unnecessary and irritating at best, and outright game-wreckingly bad at worst. I'd hate to see a perk like Exponential have to get nerfed when it probably doesn't need it, instead of fixing an issue that Twins have had since day one. It's been a year. How much longer are we supposed to wait? What else am I, and all the people out there who enjoy Twins, supposed to do? There isn't many of us, I'll admit, but there's enough that it matters. Just sort them out. Please. But you know what? Despite everything that's happened to them, I have no desire to give them up. No matter what they do with healing and Exponential and Dead Hard and fatigues and all that shit, I still love them to bits. They're still my favourite killer. It says a lot that even though Behaviour's released 2 killers back to back that I'm absolutely head over heels in love with playing, Twins are still my favourite, and they're going to stay that way for probably ever. During the week between the key nerf and the Circle of Healing coming off Kill Switch, that week was the most fun week I've ever had playing DBD, and it was basically all Twins, and that was with the 5-second fatigue, with We're Gonna Live Forever, with medkits being as strong as they are, with tons of stuff that still rails against them, and I did fine, and I was happy, I loved it. The Twins' problems are dire, but they are fixable, and the reason people like Linkus and myself persist with them is because they're a blast anyway, as weird as that is to say. So while we can hope, now more than ever, that Behaviour will actually remember that their killer exists, it's important to bear in mind that we still do. So happy birthday, Charlotte and Victor.
He ain't gonna jump no more. Oh.